Alfonso Cajero, A Journey into Finance History. Chapter 88, Increased Global Attention on Income Inequality, 2010s-2020s. Discussions around wealth distribution intensify. In the early 2010s, a silent storm was brewing. The world was still reeling from the 2008 financial crisis, a catastrophe that had shaken economies globally. Millions had lost their jobs, homes, and savings. People began to ask questions. Why did this happen? How did the rich seem to get richer while the poor bore the brunt of the crisis? Emma Walker, a young journalist from New York, found herself in the midst of this growing unease. Fresh out of college, she was eager to make her mark. Her first assignment was to cover the growing protests on Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street, they called it. It wasn't just a protest, it was a movement. Thousands gathered in Zuccotti Park, chanting slogans and holding signs that read, "We are the 99%. Emma wandered through the park, her notepad in hand, jotting down quotes and observations. She interviewed people from all walks of life, students burdened with debt, families evicted from their homes, and even a few former bankers who had turned their backs on the financial world. The common thread among all their stories was a deep-seated anger and frustration at the stark inequality that had become so glaringly apparent. Emma's articles gained traction. People were hungry for information, for stories that echoed their own experiences. She received letters and emails from readers worldwide, sharing their tales of hardship and injustice. It was clear that the issue of income inequality was not confined to America. It was a global phenomenon. Around the same time, in a small village in India, Ramesh Kumar, a farmer, was struggling to make ends meet. The monsoon had failed, and his crops had withered. The little money he had saved was spent on buying water for his fields. Despite his hard work, his family often went to bed hungry. Ramesh read about the protests in America and felt a kinship with the people there. Though their circumstances were different, their struggle was the same. Meanwhile, in Europe, governments were grappling with the fallout from the crisis. Austerity measures were implemented, leading to widespread public discontent. In Greece, Spain, and Italy, protests erupted as people took to the streets, demanding fairer economic policies. Politicians were forced to confront the reality that the old ways were no longer tenable. The cracks in the system were widening, and something had to change. Emma's work continued to shine a light on these issues. She traveled to different parts of the world, documenting the stories of those affected by income inequality. In Brazil, she met Maria, a single mother working multiple jobs to support her children. In South Africa, she interviewed Sifo, a miner facing dangerous working conditions and meager pay. Each story added another layer to the complex tapestry of global inequality. Back in New York, Emma's editor, David, encouraged her to dig deeper. "This isn't just about the numbers," he said. "It's about the human cost. Keep telling their stories." Emma took his advice to heart. She knew that behind every statistic was a person with a unique story, a person who deserved to be heard. As the years went by, the conversation around income inequality grew louder. Politicians, activists, and academics all weighed in, proposing solutions and debating policies. The movement gained momentum, and people like Emma and Ramesh became unlikely heroes in the fight for a fairer world. The dawn of awareness had broken, and there was no turning back. The world was waking up to the realities of income inequality, and the call for change was becoming impossible to ignore. The year was 2013, and the world was buzzing with new ideas and technologies. Yet, despite the advancements, the gap between the rich and the poor continued to widen. The Occupy Wall Street movement had fizzled out, but its spirit lived on, sparking conversations and inspiring new forms of activism. Emma Walker's articles had garnered international attention. She was invited to speak at conferences and panel discussions, where she shared the stories she had collected from around the world. Her passion and dedication were contagious, and she found herself at the forefront of a growing movement for economic justice. One sunny afternoon, Emma received an email that would change the course of her career. It was from Dr. Anil Patel, an economist from India who had read her work. He was organizing a global summit on income inequality and wanted her to be a keynote speaker. Emma eagerly accepted the invitation, seeing it as an opportunity to amplify the voices of those she had met on her travels. The summit was held in Mumbai, a city of stark contrasts. Skyscrapers towered over sprawling slums, a visual representation of the inequality that plagued the nation. Emma arrived a few days early to explore the city and gather more stories. She visited Dharavi, one of the largest slums in Asia, and met with residents who shared their struggles and dreams. At the summit, the atmosphere was electric. Economists, activists, politicians, and journalists from all corners of the globe had gathered to discuss solutions to the pressing issue of income inequality. Emma took the stage, her heart pounding with anticipation. She spoke about the people she had met, the stories they had shared, and the urgent need for change. Dr. Patel followed Emma's speech with a presentation on the economic mechanisms driving inequality. He highlighted how globalization and technological advancements, while beneficial in many ways, had also exacerbated the divide between the rich and the poor. His data was compelling, but it was Emma's stories that moved the audience to tears. One of the attendees was Sofia Martinez, a young activist from Argentina. She had been working tirelessly to address income inequality in her own country and was inspired by Emma's work. After the summit, Sofia approached Emma with a proposal. "We need to take this message to the masses," she said. "Let's create a documentary that tells these stories and reaches people who might not read academic papers or attend conferences." Emma loved the idea. Together with Sofia and a small team of filmmakers, they embarked on a journey to create a documentary that would highlight the human side of income inequality. They traveled to different countries, capturing stories of resilience and hope amidst adversity. From the favelas of Brazil to the rural villages of Africa, they documented the lives of people fighting for a better future. The documentary, titled Voices of Inequality, was released in 2015 and quickly went viral. It was screened at film festivals, broadcast on television, and shared widely on social media. The stories resonated with audiences around the world, sparking conversations and inspiring action. Emma and Sofia were inundated with messages of support and requests for interviews. Governments began to take notice. In some countries, new policies were implemented to address income inequality. Minimum wages were raised, social safety nets were strengthened, and tax systems were reformed to be more progressive. The documentary had ignited a spark of change, proving that stories could be powerful catalysts for social transformation. Emma and Sofia continued their work, using their platform to advocate for economic justice. They collaborated with activists, academics, and policymakers to push for systemic change. The journey was long and challenging, but they were driven by a deep sense of purpose and the belief that a fairer world was possible. The spark of change had been lit, and its flame was spreading. The fight for economic justice was far from over, but the momentum was building. Emma, Sofia, and countless others around the world were determined to keep pushing forward, driven by the stories of those who had inspired them and the hope for a brighter future. By 2016, the issue of income inequality had become a central topic in political debates around the world. The documentary Voices of Inequality had played a significant role in raising awareness, but Emma and Sofia knew there was still much work to be done. They decided to expand their efforts by launching a global campaign called Equal Futures, aimed at mobilizing communities and advocating for policy changes. The campaign kicked off with a massive rally in London. People from all walks of life gathered in Hyde Park, holding signs and chanting slogans demanding economic justice. Emma and Sofia stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces filled with determination and hope. As Emma took the microphone, she felt a surge of emotion. This was more than just a protest, it was a movement. "Today, we stand together to demand a fairer world," Emma began, her voice steady and strong. "We are here to tell our leaders that enough is enough. We will no longer accept a system that benefits the few at the expense of the many. We are the 99%, and we will be heard." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Emma continued, sharing stories from the documentary and highlighting the urgent need for change. Sophia followed with a passionate speech about the power of collective action and the importance of holding governments accountable. The rally was a resounding success, and the momentum continued to build.